stepping in. Karen,
We
step
should,
into? Do I just step in where we?
yes, I would approve the agenda and approve the minutes.
Okay. So, you have before you tonight's agenda. And what is the pleasure of the board?
Second.
Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Gherkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp? Dr. Smith? Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. You also have before you the minutes from the September 18th regular meeting.
I move we approve.
Second.
Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Gherkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Abstain, I was absent.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp? Dr. Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Any changes to the agenda? No? Table file, okay. Let's see. So moving right into special presentations. So, Mr. Eccles, would you like to start with our special presentations? Okay.
Okay, we'll start. Honor, we have two outstanding employees that we want to honor tonight. And we're going to start with Sherman, Vanessa Hoffman. Vanessa, did they trick you? No one told me that I was, well, you are indeed. That's why you're being recognized. They didn't tell me I was supposed to go along with part of the trick. Usually they.
You usually
Deb
do,
fills me in.
and Deb just stepped
I
out,
didn't-
so.
No one told me. I didn't know. Where Deb slid out to? Well,
Why don't
enough
you
for the
read what-
suspense then. Anyway, you're being recognized and nominated as Employee of the Month for RE3 School District. Congratulations. These are the nice things that some of your colleagues said about you.
Oh, hold on a second.
There's Miss Lee
Hold
right
on a
there.
second.
Well, you didn't tell me how this was gonna play out. Gee, now. Yeah. You know these, yeah, take it, you know most of these people. Okay. All right. Okay, these are what some of your colleagues feel strongly about you and your positive influence at Sherman. Says her positive attitude and ever-present smile are contagious. Vanessa has a wonderful demeanor that makes her successful interacting with children and adults alike. She has worked as a paraprofessional in the kindergarten program for the past 5 years in several assignments, including general instructional support, special education support, and ELL instructional assistant. Vanessa starts most days as a greeter in front of Sherman, helping kindergarten students out of their cars, seeing them safely into the building for school. And I'm going to tell you, that is a job. You've ever been through that a few times, and I've been there a few times watching this. It's like clockwork. They keep it moving. You do a great job. She then works as an instructional assistant for one of the ELL literacy classes for the first portion of the school day. The remainder of her day, Vanessa supports student learning in a different way. Vanessa agreed to a new challenge this year by assuming the role of fine arts paraprofessional, providing instruction to kindergarten students as part of the special class rotation. She gets to work with every kindergarten student, offering practice and support for fine motor activities and exposed to music, rhythmic activities 2 or 3 times each week. So you get to work with Brock Wheatley a little bit then probably? Yeah, I know him a little bit. I hope he's better behaved, just let me know. Vanessa's found a niche in early childhood education and is currently pursuing her degree to become a teacher. Sherman Early Childhood Center and Morgan County School District R3 are fortunate to have Vanessa as a staff member, spending her positive influence and approach to every student with whom she comes in contact with. So Vanessa, come up. We have everything laid out here. All right. Get a nice plaque, and you get a certificate. Sometimes it's a trip to the Bahamas, I'm not sure. So the reason why we actually have two tonight is because last month we missed the one, so.
Vanessa, we just like to say congratulations to you, and it's very well deserved, and we're really fortunate to have you in our district, and hope you'll stay here for many more years. And best of luck to you with that degree you're working on too. So.
Our next employee we want to recognize tonight is from Pioneer. It's Laura Ibarra. Laura, were they honest with you, or were they honest with you while you're here tonight, or? Oh, okay. Oh, you're lucky, huh? Okay, so these are the nice things some of your staff members say about you. Laura Ibarra should be considered for the District Employee of the Month because of her phenomenal devotion to the students of our community, no matter what the cost in time or money. Previously, I only knew Laura in passing, but I did know that she is a dedicated paraprofessional who gives generously of her time tutoring students for free and spending her own money to buy materials for the classroom. I found out how truly valuable Laura is to Pioneer when I started working with her in the ELL classroom. Every day Laura does something beyond the required. Many afternoons she stays late to prepare extra materials for her students. Not only does she anticipate what I think we require, but she also makes intervention suggestions that turn out to be perfect for specific students. Laura's knowledge of our students and their learning needs makes us a much more effective team. Laura's made my life easier as a transition to ELL teaching position. More importantly, she is a key component in ensuring that ELL students receive an appropriate and challenging education. So Laura, come on up. Congratulations.
Laura, we are also, we feel really fortunate to have you in our district as well. Did you want to share any words with Oh, That's terrific. We're so glad to have you as part of our school community. Thank you for all that you do every day. It's kind of fun. We get to do two of them this month because we missed last month. We came on pretty quick after Labor Day, I guess. So thank you. We're glad to have you here. You're welcome to stay for our meeting. As they all quickly exited. We appreciate your being here. It leaves a few people behind, so we do have an opportunity for audience. If there's anybody, I think the three remaining folks. Maybe. I guess you're welcome to. You don't want to leave us all by ourselves. All right. No, I was mistaken. There are four. Ben, you don't have to make it three. Okay, good. Okay, good. So, all right. Moving on to reports. We will start board reports. We'll start with Miss Hallie Shaver. Let us know what's going on at the high school. I know it's been a big week in the high school.
Yes, last week was homecoming week, and it was a lot of fun. At the homecoming football game, even though we lost, we figured out who the king and queen were. The queen was Abby Huff, and the king was Trey McBride. And then the dance on Saturday was a blast.
Very good. Very good. Anything else going on?
This week there's a lot of sports. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but they're on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Glad to have you here. Any other board reports? Nothing? Okay, let's turn it over to Mr. Eccles. Ron, what would you like to talk to us about?
I think I'm down to kind of talk just a little bit about the process we're at with our our grant for our Head Start program. And I'd ask Mike to jump in at any time to correct me. It always, when we have a construction meeting, it never fails. We always have the new middle school construction meeting. Starts about 1, and then the Head Start starts about 2:30. Sometimes I'm bouncing back between the two of them. So hopefully I'm up to date on everything, and I know that Mike and Karen's in there taking good, clear notes and keeping us lined up with our crew. So basically, it was really difficult to kind of reach a decision on this whole process about the Head Start facility, because we were looking at a pre-structured engineered design building and trying to figure out how to best do the bidding process, because you have to meet federal regulations and certain guidelines and steps you have to take. And then trying to consolidate a general contractor, because as you know, a lot of these general contractors are tied to a specific building, specific company. So after doing a lot of conversations with our owner's rep, we've decided, and his contacts, basically we decided to go forward with basically putting together our bid process. Is actually going to look at getting consolidating really 2 phases of our general contractor and also the facility itself, the pre-engineered facility itself. We believe that will meet the the regulations from the feds with this process. Now, what that will give us, hopefully, we'll get enough input and with the bidding process so we can really get a better handle on the total cost. I'll leave the numbers to Mike. The total cost, and also about the interest level. It's really interesting to see how many people will actually come forward, because basically you have to have bonding capability. Generally, obviously, we want a general contractor that has some experience and knowledge of pre-engineered buildings. We know we have 1 or 2 in our area that we think will have some legitimate interest and have the background and experience that we would like for this project. It'll be interesting to see how many people outside the area actually have the interest and actually put in a bid. Now that bid proposal will give us, RE3, a better understanding what the cost will be, because actually, you know, part of this project, as you recall, it's $2.6 million. But we've been dealing with the grant itself, but we've been dealing with the number, basically $3.1 million, because we're looking at those extra additional classrooms that RE3 is going to finance at roughly about $500,000. So once we get the bid and the proposals, then we'll have a better cost, really what RE3 will be, might be expected to pay to make this project, complete this project. Mr. Lee, am I saying the financial part of this correct?
Yeah, the other piece about this consolidated bidding of going directly to the building manufacturer for the various, a Morton, a Cleary, a Butler, Lester building, we're going to go to the manufacturers in conjunction with a general contractor. So our objective is to get the building design plans from the manufacturer so we can get those into our hands and then process through our architect to the state for the building permit. Despite our owner's rep's conversation with the state saying, oh, it's only maybe 4 weeks out for a plan review, in reality, it's like 2 months. So what we're taking is August 17th backwards to when do we have to start groundbreaking on the new facility, so we'd be in there by August 17th. So by doing this consolidation, we're eliminating one step in that process, and hopefully we'll be able to come to the state with our structural components and foundation drawings to get at least initial construction and a foundation permit, so we can actually start ground construction by sometime in March. And then that will put us into our facility by August. So we're hoping that this consolidation is going to cut some time out of our original timeline so we can actually be in by the start of school next fall, or late summer, I guess, depending on what you view August as. So we'll see how that goes.
Once we clean up the actual calendar, the work schedule itself, and tweak it just a little bit, I'll get copies to the board so you can see exactly what the time process will be for breaking ground, concrete work, and all. So I'll get you that. We're pretty close now, I think, to hopefully having a workable calendar, so to speak, a construction calendar.
And adding extra time, and we know how tight that calendar can be.
Yeah.
We say we're
don't-
going back from there, but then
Yeah.
adding, is Deb sitting there?
Well, that's part of the consolidation purposes, because we think that's gonna save us a few weeks of construction time too, so, or permitting time, whichever way you wanna look at it, so we think this is still the best process to go. But it'll be interesting to see really how many companies put in a bid proposal and how many GCs do, because it's a whole different kind of animal we're going forward with at this time, so, anyway. Any questions about that Head Start project? Okay, the other thing I was just gonna give a quick report on basically is our strategic plan. The process is alive and well, even though you might not hear about it very often, very much, but I given my administrators the opportunity to try to get their schools up and functioning and running well, and they all are. I appreciate that, but part of their also, they have different responsibilities regarding the strategic plan. We have 4 different teams, because basically our strategic plan is covering 4 different areas. If you recall, there's high student achievement, organizational effectiveness, relationships, and safe learning environments. Those are the 4 things that came out strongly when we did all of the interviews and all of the surveys that when we were working with Centennial BOCES. Those were the 4 main areas that we're focusing on, so there's 4 teams that work in those areas. Each area has a chairman, and they've all have initial meetings, and we will continue to meet. In fact, I think we have another meeting coming up, Ben, help me, next week? Is it tomorrow? I always thought it was Wednesday. What day is it? Okay, anyway, Wednesday, so continuing the process, so. Did you have something you'd like to add, Ms. Frasco?
We're actually bringing all 4 groups together on Wednesday, because what I think we're finding is, and as many people who can come as possible, because I think what we're finding is there is a lot of overlap if you look at the 4 areas, and so instead of developing a strategic plan with 100 goals, it's time to kind of rein in it a little bit and think about, I met with the other 3 heads on last Thursday, and what we talked about really resonated with each of the 4, and so we're hoping to kind of drill down a little bit more of a narrow focus this week.
There's certainly 3 areas that there's a lot of overlap in. Okay. Ben, is there anything you want to add, since you're, Rod, since you're in the audience? Deb, anything on the groups? Okay. Any questions with that? So eventually we will have a working document that we'll present to the board for your approval. Okay? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Michael, would you like to tell us what's going on in your HR world?
Yeah, we've got a lot of vacancies, as you can see from the listing in front of you. A few of these are recent, a few not so recent. We have a job fair coming up end of this month at UNC. A few of the principals will be attending with me, and we hope to fill a few of our certified positions with those that might be graduating come December. For one of those 5th grade positions, we do have a long-term sub currently in effect there with the hope, to go to that job fair and look for a new teacher or 2. Still looking for sub bus drivers. I know Ron on his radio spot indicated that as well, but we're having a heck of a time getting activities and routes filled with some folks out. Notwithstanding, we have a lot of applications, not 0 of those folks have the requisite skills. They don't have the license, and frankly, we need them to have that CDL before we can hire them. But as you can see, there's a few other TA positions, classified positions. We're doing some internal posting of jobs to give those folks opportunities to move up within the organization without initially going outside first, so that hopefully will yield some good folks. And of course, that just causes a little bit of a chain reaction, but if it betters someone's position, that would be great as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wood? Thank you very much. A process that never seems to have an end. Mr. Lee, this says none.
Isn't that a phenomenon?
I never believe it.
There was a vote at the management meeting, and they said none, so I have nothing, thank you.
Wow, okay. Well, then I'll hand your microphone to Dr. Carrasco.
I wasn't at that meeting to vote.
News for us, Colorado Health will.
Just a really quick update. I think I updated the board at the last meeting, but, so the Colorado Health Foundation approved our proposal. We were kind of in waiting limbo, but, Mr. Eccles signed off on the approval today, so I submitted it. And they have received it, which means we will be receiving a check for $112,860 for 12 months of planning. And part of that is, to meet some proposed milestones. Just a reminder, it's just the planning phase of the grant. And then after we get some stakeholder input through school and community events at the schools, we'll be hoping to gather more information to see what an implementation phase might look like.
And who's spearheading this?
Well, it's running through my office, and actually, we are really lucky. Allie Howe is going to be consulting for us through the grant. And I just talked to her before this meeting at another meeting, and so she's super excited about moving forward. I said we have to have the money before we start implementing all of these things. And so it's Allie, and then each school that is participating has designated a wellness team leader. That is a stipended position, and so they will be working with Allie at the school level to make sure those events and things are happening.
Are all the schools participating?
We are at 6 schools participating at the moment. We wrote the grant for all 8.
So who's not?
So right now, Lincoln is not participating, and Fort Morgan Middle School. And Mr. Eccles, did you want to take the mic again? Oh,
Thank
okay.
you very much. I had it written down here, but I passed over it. If I could, I didn't want to surprise Rod here, but we do want to recognize an exciting program that he and his school are involved in. And I would ask if you could take just a minute, sorry, the board, to talk about the Colorado Succeed program. It's pretty prestigious in our state, and Rod's school has been recognized as one of the finalists. And Mr. Link, would you take just a moment to share with the board about the program? Thank you very much.
Pioneer Elementary School has been nominated as a top 3 performing school in the state of Colorado for the elementary level. In all transparency, this is due to the park results, primarily from Remus last year at the school, where if you recall from the school performance framework of 2016, I believe, we scored the 85th percentile. There are 3 schools that have been nominated, and will be up for the top school in the state, which will be presented tomorrow night, by the way. I've done some research on the other schools. There's a school out of the Harrison School District in Colorado Springs, and then another one that's out of the Denver Public School System as well. Our data ranks right up there with theirs. Fundamental differences are rate of free and reduced lunches are significantly higher. Our minority base is significantly higher as well. So there were 25 criteria that all elementary schools throughout the state were scrutinized from, and we scored in the top 3. So and it's really quite an accomplishment, quite frankly. If you recall the 9 news teachers of the year in the past, I guess the criteria was simply just self-nomination or nomination from others. I believe that I don't know for sure, but my assessment of this is that they are changing the format. And this will be the first year that actual schools will be recognized, and from each individual schools will come a Teacher of the Year candidate from there. Pioneer's Teacher of the Year candidate is Shelley O'Connor, so she will be a 9 News Teacher of the Year, not a candidate, but an actual recipient of the award. So it's very, very positive. Public recognition for the school, for our staff, for the district, for the community.
That's terrific. Where do you present tomorrow night?
It's at the Newman Center at the CU University, CU at Denver.
At DU.
At DU?
Yeah.
Well, it said CU in the email, so But aren't they all one campus there with Metro?
It's at DU.
Is that you?
Two different schools.
Okay, all right.
CD, you know, it's.
I was a math guy, so it was kind of messing up.
That's
Tuition checks for 4 years to DU, I know.
That's something I'm gonna need to correct, by the way, because I put it out in
No,
emails.
it's, you emailed it correct.
Okay.
regardless. That's tremendous news.
It is.
I applaud both of you and everybody who's involved, the staff at Pioneer. I know you've been doing great things over there for the last several years. So,
Pretty special place.
so we'll be rooting for you for sure.
Hope we get it. Like I said, it'd be nice to put some positive spin on the community.
Absolutely. Terrific. Well, thank you very much. Well done. Yeah.
Rena, anything you'd like to add?
It is a very fancy party tomorrow night. They said it's a cocktail attire with, I mean, just fancy terms in their email, so I think it'll be, and it's going to be well attended by Pioneer staff.
Yeah, we
20, 28, 29 people.
last count, we had 30.
30 people?
That would be attending.
Pretty
Well, it's a beautiful place. I know my daughter used to play.
My first question for the 9 News organization, and MindSpark Learning is also helping to promote the event. My first question is why on Tuesday night for a group of teachers would you have an awards assembly? Because that was the number one response I got back from our teachers was that it's a school night.
You taking a school bus over there? or-
I thought about it, but no one in their adult mind ever wants to ride a school bus.
I do know that. I do know that. I know it's at all costs. So,
Has nothing to do with the kids, it's just simply about legroom.
yeah, there you go.
Or
Well,
lack
that's,
thereof.
well, that's terrific news. And we're really proud of the work that's being done at that school. So,
Rena, anything else you'd like to add? Okay.
well, have a good time.
Yeah, have fun.
It should be a fun time.
Shoot me a text.
Very validating. Yeah, I gotta figure out the whole technology piece of things, so. The Twitter thing, I don't know, I leave that up to the president, so. Didn't mean that in a bad way or a good way, I just don't.
Yeah, I just said you-
Would you like to discuss the other award? Oh, okay.
That might save another award, actually.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
I think I am.
You think you are done? Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, let's move on to our discussion items. We get time to save. Policy first reading, this is an elimination of the policy JLD on guidance and counseling. Discussion item B, policy second reading, you have a whole big list there we talked a little bit about at our last meeting. These are recommended by CASB. These updates are part of the School Safety Act, known as the Claire Davis Act. Several of those are eliminations of policies. They're no longer applicable, or the information may have been added to another policy. Any changes since last time, Karen? It seems like we had a few little things that we.
There was a correction, which one is it? The one that talked about interrogation versus investigation.
That's right.
So I changed so that all of
They
the
align.
spots say investigation.
Okay.
And I highlighted those in your copies. And I believe that that is the only changes on that second reading group of policies.
Any other questions? Anybody? No? Okay, discussion item C, policies third reading. We have GBEB, staff conduct and responsibilities, GBEB-R, staff conduct, professional relations with students, and then GBEBA, staff dress code. And
I did have a lengthy conversation today with the FMEA. Slip. Regarding these 3 policies, a lot of good input, good conversations that they're going to put back, they're going to ask them to highlight some of the areas of concern and some recommendations they might have to change the wording as it is now, so we're kind of putting the brakes on that a little bit and getting a little more input from staff from the district on
Okay.
those 3 policies.
sounds good, so we will not take action on those. Moving on to the consent agenda, you have before you personnel actions and the personnel action report. And what's the pleasure of the board?
Move we approve the consent agenda.
comments, changes, additions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Gerken? Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp? Dr. Smith? Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Moving on to action items. Action item B is a consideration to approve policies on third reading. We have GCEC, posting and advertising of professional vacancies, that's an elimination. GBEE, staff use of internet and electronic communications, and then ADD, safe schools.
I move we approve. Policies on third reading.
Hold on one second.
Clarity in this third reading.
So we're approving these three policies. These three are going back on the discussion list to be able to keep discussing.
I just want to make sure that the board's aware of that.
I think that was what was A originally.
It was what?
That was A, was the policies that were not approving.
Yes, those three policies under the approval now are the ones that were a second reading last time. There wasn't any questions about those, so we can approve those on the third reading. Those other ones need to keep going on, and we'll have more than 3 readings on them.
But not as many as.
Not 11 or
Yeah, other
12.
policies.
We'll see. We'll see.
Mr. Lee holds that record.
We fought for the record. Any other questions about the policies or anything?
I missed,
Do we have a
I missed
second?
that, yes.
I move we approve that.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Gerken?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp? Dr. Smith? Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Action item C is consideration to approve the Head Start grant carryover, and you do have the narrative there before you. This is in regard to the construction.
I'll motion to approve.
A second. Any questions, comments, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Gerken?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean?
Aye.
Mr. Schneider?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp?
Aye.
Dr. Smith? Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. Action item D is consideration to approve the stipend list, which you do have before you.
I move to approve the stipend list.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Are there changes to this list as far as categories, or what's different from last year? Are we,
Well, I would tell you probably 98% is the same.
that's I kind of figure.
Probably a couple of things that come up during the course of the year. That might be a new position, new situation. We actually had this exact conversation today about really what needs to come before the board. But for example, we've always had a coach at the elementary schools. Previous year, because of not having the correct personnel or losing the coach, one of the principals decided they'd rather have a stipend, a smaller stipend out for 3 or 4 of the person's teachers instead of hiring a coach, which we approved that kind of thing. So there's always a little tweaking through the whole course of the whole year with the stipend list, but reality that this is the main, I mean, it changes very little. I'd say, again, 98% of the same thing you approve each year in stipend list.
And Ron's correct. The only ones that I'm aware of, we did add an additional MASH position. That's to the middle school. It's their after-school program for help with homework. I'm not sure what the M means, but after-school homework is the ASH. Anyone know? Mandatory. Oh, wow.
We're positive.
Yeah. So that is, that's one new one. And then outside of that,
Stipends for the teachers
Yeah,
at
there's-
high school, they already approved.
yeah.
For what?
The AP courses.
I didn't see that on here, did I miss
That's
it?
not on there, yeah.
No, it's not.
I was surprised it wasn't on there.
Approve it last
We
time.
did, you did approve.
You did a separate approval item
I
of
think
it.
it's already been approved.
Could we know overall what the cost difference is between this one and last year? Roughly.
I'd have to get that for you, Lauren. I don't know off the top of my head. It's easily done. I'll get that to Karen.
I'm trying to remember,
Forward it.
some of these came out of our negotiations. The stipend dollar amount, as I recall.
The stipend.
The stipend amount. Right, but the stipend amount.
Yeah.
What's the color coding for? Why are some blue and some yellow and some?
The coding colors.
That's actually for the ease of Debbie to figure out what changes have been made. So where you see a yellow one, that's a new person in that position that wasn't there last year, is my guess. And I'm not sure about the other colors. Yeah, the yellow are definitely new. I'm not sure what the other colors are all about.
They're non-district staff.
Oh, thank you, that's right. I see one, yeah, two, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gherkin?
Aye.
Mr. Keller?
Aye.
Mrs. McLean? Mr. Schneider?
Abstain due to conflict of interest.
Mr. Sharp?
Aye.
Mr. Smith? How about Dr. Smith? It secretly snuck in. Sorry.
It's been one of those days.
And Mrs. Weingarten?
Aye. You have before you information items, monthly reports from Sherman and Green Acres. No newsletters. Our next regular meeting's October 16th here at the District Support Center. DAC meeting October 12th here at 6:30. Casby Fall Regional meeting October 24th. Have you talked anybody else into it?
Right now, I have you registered, Mrs. Weingarten, and I do have a couple of questions from our two other board candidates that are not seated at the board now. And I've answered those questions, and I think there is some interest from those two in attending.
Okay. Good opportunity potentially to meet our two other potential board members. And then the CASB annual conference is coming up November 30th to December 3rd.
And I do have,
And I may have to make a change.
okay, I do have you already registered. And Mr. Gherkin is registered, and Mrs. McLean and Dr. Smith. Mr. Smith or Dr. Smith, whichever. Both let me know today, and I'll get them registered first thing in the morning, and then we will be assigned a half-hour window to register for rooms at the Broadmoor. So I will make sure that I get in on that half hour.
Okay.
Oh, and I registered Mr. Eccles, too.
When is that date that you do the?
I don't know, they haven't given it to me yet.
Because I may end up have to withdraw.
You
It's
know,
better to
I'll-
order too many rooms than not enough.
Yes, yes, we can transfer the name. So I will probably still go ahead and get your room,
Okay,
and then we can cancel when there's a drop dead date.
that's good. I'll be on vacation the week prior. I don't know.
What's the deadline to not go and it doesn't cost the district?
You know, I need to look that up, and I'm not positive of that yet, so I will look that up and I'll email you.
So I'm not anticipating any issues, but just in case.
Sure.
Okay, well, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, then we will adjourn.